Welcome back to another episode of the Bad Ideas Garage. My name is Steven, and today I'm going to be replacing the wheel bearing in this 2010 Acura TL all-wheel drive. As I drive it down the road, it sounds like a jet airliner at any speed, and when I turn, it goes away. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be replacing the entire front spindle on this, and I'm hoping that that sound is going to go away. I also bought a used part because this is the Bad Ideas Garage, and that is very, very modus operandi for us. So that's what we got in the video today. Hope you enjoy.
Still drives!
Of course, first things first, got a jack stand over there at a jacking point. And there's actually a jacking point right there in the front. There's a jack stand under that. No, those are not Harbor Freight jack stands. They're Walmart jack stands. And then I'm going to use my Harbor Freight impact to be able to hopefully get this off. So that is going to go in there today. So this is a 36 millimeter. You'll probably need to go get one of these if you don't have it already. There's a 12 mil right here. And so I'm going to take the brake line, and then there are two 17 mils right behind here, and I'm going to take this bungee, and I'm going to bungee and just leave the brake line and everything attached to the caliper and let it just hang there while we do all the work over here. All right, here's a pro tip. So it says electronic power steering, so it's actually really easy to turn. Just turn the car on, not on, the motor's on. Turn the car on and get some space open for this, and then I just use my Harbor Freight breaker bar on this 19. I was able to get that one undone, and yeah, we're gonna do the lower one now. Alrighty, so I have bungee corded that over there. It actually had a lot more slack than I thought it would. So now that we have this, now we have to get this rotor off. So there are these Phillips in here, so I'm gonna see how really difficult that these are to get out. Alright, thanks to my local AutoZone who's letting me borrow these things. So this should have everything that I need. I might need to get a 24 millimeter on top of that. But yeah, I'm going to pull out the axle nut now. Hopefully my impact, Harbor Freight Special, can do that. And then I have to take out the up control arm joint, and then also the tie rod end that's over there. So I'm actually going to move this back forward in the car, and let's see how that goes. Okay, well, I'm glad that came off easier than the crank pulley I did down there. Okay. These. Alright, so I've tried hammering these with a regular hammer. I even used my regular drill. That's not working. So I'm going to go back to AutoZone to go get what's called an impact hammer. It will actually, it's basically made for these. And probably some new screws, because those are buggered out. Alright, so these up here, this is just a cotter pin, so I'm going to squish it and pull it out this side. And make sure to do it down here too. Alright, I turned the wheel back to give myself some more room, so took the cotter pin out of this. This is the bigger of the two cotter pins, and this is a 17, so I'm going to use my impact and get that out. Okay, that was actually really easy. So this is where I'll probably have to use the tie rod end puller to be able to pop this out. Alright, while I'm here, I'm just going to disconnect this ABS sensor. Because I'm pretty sure you really can't do anything until I get these undone. So I'm trying to prevent more than one trip to AutoZone here. Okay, so this actually, there's a little door that's right there. And you undo the little door, I just used a flathead screwdriver, and that's how that got out. So I'm gonna do a little, I think that's a 10 mil, and then another 10 mil, and it should come loose. All right, on that one up there, I was actually just able to use my breaker bar. It's another 17, and it cracked right loose. That actually wasn't that hard. Alright, at this point I have purchased an impact driver, so this kind of turns while you're hammering on it. I just got the one from my local AutoZone, and I bought some new screws for this as well, so let's see how this goes. It's particularly helpful because those are starting to look kind of stripped, and yeah, I really don't want to drill anything out. Alright, so I've now broken most of the bits from the Guaranteed for Life Duralast, so I'm just going to drill these out. Alright, time for, I'm going to try masonry drill bits, and if that doesn't work, carbide. This is gosh darn coming out. laugh when the solution was just to take the mallet and hit this from the back.
3 hours later.
Victory! You can see I drilled enough that I started to drill into the hub, which is fine. You know, I don't really need it. So, yeah, so now I'm going to take the tie rod puller and pull this out. Okay, so cotter pin down here was very stuck, and now it's in 2 pieces, so I'm going to have to get some of those. So yeah, I'm going to take this one off, and I probably need to measure what it is. I guess it's probably another, what, 17? Just kidding, that's a 19. Alrighty. Okay, it's on, ish. So I actually, let's see if I can get some light on here. I made a little notch using my Dremel. So yeah, this is sketchy, but we'll see how this works. All right, that was the most undramatic thing ever, but I'm just basically started threading this to get this on. I just whacked it with a hammer several times to make sure that this was, you know, getting a bite right there. And yeah, you can see that it popped. So just threading this by hand, and it's coming right out. Thanks AutoZone once again for saving my butt. But this is how you remove the from the up control arm right here and use one of these. This is a tie rod importer specifically for imported cars. So you just slip over the collar right there, and then as you tighten this up, it should release, hopefully. All right, that was a pain in the butt. A little bit of crowbar. You can see there's a little bit of grease left over, but I'm not using this whole spindle, so it doesn't matter. And then I use this. This is from the tie rod puller, or the Pitman arm puller, and I whacked it with a hammer to get the axle out, because that sucker was definitely stuck, and I hope I didn't pull it too hard. There's a little bit of leeway back and forth where the transmission is. This sucker's out. So I'm going to spin this around, and we're going to hear if this is definitely bad or not. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a ton of resistance in this. Yeah, this is definitely bad. Okay, let's do the good one. Nice and quiet. Really nice and quiet. I mean, you can just barely hear some movement in that one. This one, on the other hand, yeah, jeez. I've been working on this Acura for way too long, but I finally have everything that I need, I hope, to get this thing back together. So I have over here, new ball joint, a new ball joint press tool. The reason why is because this ball joint, it has a sleeve on it. And there's also a sleeve over there in the lower control arm. That's not coming off. This is probably not coming off without damaging this. And my buddy Chuck was like, why don't you just replace the ball joint? I said, oh, okay. So I am going to go actually practice on this first. This is the original spindle, just to make sure that I do not mess anything up. Alright, so the first things first is that we got to get this out of here, and you can see it's actually started to come out a little bit because I was trying to get this off, and in the process kind of damaged it. So yeah, I'm just going to take a hammer and hit it a couple times and hope it comes out. Alright, so the internet say that if I just take a flathead and hammer it while you're doing this sort of position, it should come out. So let me give that a shot. Okay, as you can see that I marked these ahead of time. I'm not sure if that's going to be helpful, but I went ahead and did it. I think that's mostly still where it needs to be. I do have an extra ring just in case I mess this up or whatever. Okay, having that out will allow the ball joint to come out, so now I just need to whack this really hard, or I can just use the press, I think, so yeah, we'll see. Alright, so I can actually use this to get the ball joint out as well. There's a bunch of instructions here. I should probably, read them. This might bite me in the butt later, but forget using all of that stuff. I'm just going to use my gosh darn hammer. It looks like it's making a difference. As you can tell from the very flat part here, I've been whacking at this a lot. This is what a ball joint looks like. All right, so when desperate times come for desperate measures, I hire world famous Bad Ideas Garage hammer expert, Hammerman Bobby Navarro, who has that awesome Nissan truck that video actually kind of blew up. So yeah, this took a while to get out. Couple of whacks. And so now, in theory, what happens is I go and take that one over there, and it just goes whoop, and that just goes whoop, right? That's how these car projects go, right? Oh wait, we have a press for that. That says made in China. Apparently this cotter pin's made in Germany. That's pretty cool. All right, Bobby. So first time, this is just gonna go whoop, and we're gonna press it in with that press. So we're gonna take a 22 mil. Nope. We're gonna take a 22 mil, which is right here. We're gonna twist this on. There's a little cup right here that is conveniently large enough for the ball joint. You're a 24. This, I'm not sure if that's supposed to press directly on the ball joint. We're just gonna roll with it. Here we go. Harbor Freight is not gonna let me down.
It slowly moved, yeah.
That's a new ball joint. It is beautiful. Now, did I contort this and break it enough that it's not going to fit? So the C was pointed towards the ball joint as such. That checks out. So I have the expert here who's telling me,
I'm not an expert.
semi-expert, that it's probably all the way down and that this will smash as I put it in, because that's what it looks like here. But I mean, I could not get that in any farther comparatively to this. So I'm gonna put it in, see what happens. And then the ring I smashed a little bit. Well, I didn't smash it, it bent a little bit, but it went right back in.
Yeah.
And I literally just,
Yep, it just pops.
I pressed it in.
Yeah, it
and
just pops in.
And it's in. So now, if you'd like to observe my tomfoolery, I'm going to put it together. All right, so rotor is getting hammered back on gently. And this is all still just hand tightened stuff. Did the sensor back there, got that into place. Just gonna really gently and make sure that these are lined up as well. So Chuck's teaching me the pro tip that you put the lug nuts on now, give it a little bit of rad-tat-tat with my favorite friend from Harbor Freight, and that's gonna seat this down because it's not quite seated down, and I can get those screws in, so this actually is, you know, legit or something like that. All right, pro tip. A little dabble do ya, is what Chuck just said. I just probably put way too much, but this is just the same stuff that I put on spark plugs when I put them in. And yes, I know it's squeezing out like that. So these, just the same screws that you get. It literally says it's for Honda. I got these at AutoZone. I'm gonna put these in here. These are a little more holy than what we used to have. But yeah, so I have sensor put in. And then I have all of these ceremonially in, all of the screws for the upper control arm, lower control arm, and for the tie rod end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to preload the suspension. You'll see me do that in just a second. And then get everything to spec. And then I really, really hope that I get to drive this tomorrow. All right, so what I'm doing is that that's a 17, that's a 17. And what I'm doing is I'm just tightening these down by hand, and then I'm going to preload the suspension. I'm going to basically put a jack right on the edge of this, and what that's going to do is that's going to act like the car is, you know, on the ground, and then that's where I'm going to torque everything to spec. And then after that is when I'm going to put this brake caliper back on. Also, don't forget about the sensor and tighten that down too. Okay, this is day something of working on the Acura, and there are two bolts that are 19 mils that hold in the brake caliper. I've put those on. There's a couple of 14s that are holding on the brake line for the brake fluid. I'm going to preload this. Got my very accurate Harbor Freight torque wrench here. And the tie rod and the upper and lower control arms, I read online it's like 47 or 43, so I'm going to go with 47, which doesn't seem like it's very tight. So I'm going to be tightening all of them up with this. The suspension is preloaded. You can see my jacks up here, holding up the brake rotor there. And then we're going to put the wheel on, of course, after we're gonna go and tighten up that axle nut. That one's 181 pound-feet of torque as well, aka just about as much as my Harbor Freight impact will do. All right, for the record, the load control arm, that was a 19 millimeter as well. So everything is snugged up. So now I am going to put a crowbar, and what I'm going to try to do is try to tighten this up without, you know, damaging anything else in here. So I'm going to put a crowbar in here and just basically get this down as hard as I can. I'm going to put these lug nuts on here just kind of temporarily, just to make sure that the you know, nothing flies off when I'm giving this all of the ugga-duggas. So let's give it some ugga-duggas. Okay, so after all of this work, I'm actually going to be firing this thing up, and we're going to see if all of this was worth it or not. So start should be undramatic, hopefully. Braking system, check tire pressure. I did, you know, remove the rotor, so we can get out of this garage without hitting anything. Okay, the brakes still work, that's a plus. So I'm a little nervous because this is the first time I've really done like intense suspension work on my own. I've always had Dale or Jamie or somebody with me. So this is the first time, and you know, I had Colton stop by to make sure everything was okay. Chuck stopped by, make sure everything was okay, but this is really the first time that I'm gonna do this. So I'm gonna drive this around the block. All right, so I think we did it, people. This car is much more pleasurable to drive, but yeah, it's got a pretty good pull. Otherwise, I'm gonna call this a great success.